Hi everyone, my name is BarryRooke. I'm the Executive Director of the National Campus and Community Radio Association. I just wanted to share a little bit of information as we apply here for the Center of Excellence Awards. I started in radio at the age of 15. I decided coming out of college or out of high school, going into college, I went to radio, TV, broadcasting. I ended up completing my master's looking at how radio used social media in 2011 and 2012, and then took over running a radio station over that period of time. In 2015, after 7 years of running that station, I moved here to Ottawa to take on the executive director role of the National Campus and Community Radio Association. So this is my application for the 2022 Association Center of Excellence. The National Campus Community Radio Association is like many associations. It's a group of not-for-profits brought together by us as a leading organization since 1986. I'm actually only the fourth ED over that period of time, and have been decently successful in bringing people together. Our growth numbers have grown from 86 when I started to now 125 individual radio stations across the country. They're each not-for-profits. They all operate in their own structures and systems, so we do a lot of training and education for them. And we do work with two of our French language partner associations, as well as a funding body, which I sit on the board for as well. These stations are often very small and unique, so some operate on less than $5,000 a year in tiny communities of less than 1,000 people. Others are much larger with multiple hundreds of volunteers, close to a dozen staff members, and upwards of $1 million in revenue. So there's a wide variety of needs that we're trying to address throughout the sector all across the different radio stations. This past year, we put forth to redo our mandate. We hadn't had an update since 1986 when we first launched. So with the support of Lorna Hooskamp, who's with CAE, has been on the board and a couple of committees there, we adopted a brand new mission, vision, and values, whereas we didn't have the vision or the values before. We had more of objectives and goals in which we are trying to achieve. So we've brought this up into the modern world over the last 18 months. I'm very happy about that process going forward. Our board of directors is made up of a whole bunch of not-for-profit members, where this is often the very first experience of being on a board. So it takes a little bit of extra time for us to train and educate. So I've developed in the last about 24 months or so a new training and onboarding process. We've also implemented in 2022 the 50-30 challenge. I drafted a leadership policy which was approved, and we're now following the 50-30 challenge from the Government of Canada, which of course is incredibly important to have a variety of diverse backgrounds from within our sector, especially with the fact that we come from all different areas across the country. For staffing, the NCRA historically has only had 2 or 3 staff at one time. In the last 18 months, we've hired 2 new staff members, and I was able to successfully run a conference just 3 weeks after our long-term Director of Learning and Development left. So they left us, unfortunately, with a little bit of extra work to do abruptly. My hair got a little bit grayer after that, but we were very successful in getting through that conference in 2022 and had an even stronger one this past year in Calgary in 2023 with a new conference coordinator who we brought on for the first time to run this. The couple of services that we've put together in the last 18 months, 12 months included a brand new mentorship program focusing on underrepresented communities. I was able to develop a 60-minute documentary with members of parliament, senators, and more for World College Radio Day, which was aired on over 600 radio stations across the country. We were able to monetize our consulting services and had 7 different groups who were doing board training, strategic development, HR support. And we also completed a full succession plan for the NCRA, using it as a template not only for ourselves, but also for our members to adopt as well. So very happy with some of those new programs and processes that were put into place in the last couple months. I also sit on the Community Radio Fund of Canada. The organization there had a dormant foundation. I've been acting since the president in 2021. In 2023, we were able to receive CRA approval for the new mandate, which includes new objectives. And now that organization is looking for an ED, which we're in the process of doing, and will allow radio stations for direct deposits and charitable receipts starting in the fall of this year, very similar to the Canada Helps model. So both the fund and the foundation also now follow the 50-30 challenge, thanks to a bit of the extra support that we put into that process. So very happy with those two organizations and where they're going as well. We have a variety of partners, as I had mentioned. Both of those other partners have had staff turnover, which leaves myself as the most experienced in the sector, although I am also still the youngest in the sector and the leadership role. And we've had some really good connections in bringing those new individuals on board to get us up to speed on our lobbying and advocacy. The main focus that we've had over the last little while has been on Bill C-10 and 11, the longest running bills in parliamentary history. We were very happy that we had presentations in front of the committees. We were able to draft legislation that was adopted unanimously, both for C-11 and C-18 as the only parties that had adjustments adopted by everybody. And we've had dozens of meetings with MPs and senators. So very successful in both of those areas. What that's done is that's led us into a space where we could look at core and stable funding through the CRTC. We're actively involved in that discussion and those processes. And also, it ended up leading us into this challenge of Meta blocking all media. And of course, our members are media based. So many of these not-for-profits that are the only media areas in their community are now blocked. So we're actively addressing those situations with government and with Meta representatives. The other thing that I guess I would bring into this process was that I started a brand new association completely from scratch. So in 2020, my love for cider came together after getting my CAE. I learned that there was a need to address excise duty, a new tax that was going to come into place in 2022. That association launched formally in 2021. It's grown to 115 members through the strategic plan that I developed. Now we're looking at a national conference, an export plan, awards, and so on. There's about 11 industry partners we've had. We've run 2 Canada Summer Jobs positions. I'm also the only staff member of this. I'm doing it sort of on the side. And we're about to launch a national training program that we're monetizing for education purposes, being one of the leaders in the process. So we've also been able to bring about 35 members to CiderCon in Chicago through secured discounting rates. And as I mentioned right off the top, the big issue in savings was excise duty. So I was able to talk with government members, specifically with the Finance Committee, and successfully got them to agree that cider is not the same as wine, and thus it should not be classified the same way at the CRA level. And so far that saved our sector itself $30 million a year in excise duty. $30 million over the last 2 years in excise duty, and ongoing $15 million as well. So very happy and proud that I was able to not only start up this association from scratch, but also had all of that in place too. So that's a little bit of information about me. Happy to answer any additional questions. I'll also throw in there that we got a pandemic puppy towards the end of 2022. So I did all of that while having a brand new puppy around. And they like to go adventure with us when we go to the cideries and the radio stations. So that's my application for the awards for this year for the CSAE. I hope that it builds on my acknowledgement of the Up and Coming Award that I was won in 2021 through the Gatineau, Ottawa chapter. And again, happy to answer any additional questions you might have. Barry@ncra.ca. Thank you for listening.